Hey everybody, welcome back to the 44th episode of Taps and Patience. I am one of the hosts, AJ with Design the Everything, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. And we have James of Cerven Solutions here with us. Hi James, did I say your name right?
Yes. Since when was there music in there?
Oh yeah, we do. We have music now.
It's a new thing.
That's nice.
We can also do things like this.
Wow.
And that might be really quiet. Though
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
I did what's called a QC check. I listened to one of our episodes, and the outro music did not show up for some reason.
That's unfortunate.
Interesting.
Don't know why, but it wasn't there.
You'll have to sing it this time.
Yeah, seems how I do the outro, we'll have AJ sing it.
I can't even remember how it goes. Wow, okay. Anyway, let's see. You've been on twice now? Is this your second time or third time?
I think once I bailed on you because something came up last time.
Okay. If it makes you feel any better, you were our second choice. You were our backup option.
That's okay.
No, I'm actually super glad you're back on here. Give a 30-second quick brief introduction to who you are and what you do in case anybody didn't listen to that first episode. Though actually your first episode may be our most listened to episode. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I am James. My brother is Sean. We run a job shop called Cerven Solutions. That is our last name. And we are in a small shop in New York. And yeah, that's it. We just do job shop work.
And is there a company that you tend to do job shop work for more than others?
Mostly Xometry, but slowly less and less.
Ooh.
So what's your percentage right now?
Oh, it's still in the 90s. When I say less, it's like 2% less. Every time we try to back away from them, it just gives us like more work, so we just keep getting sucked back in somehow.
How many machines are you up to now?
2. So we had the sill last time, I think, and the 5-axis FANUC. And then once we got the 5-axis FANUC, we kind of got not sick of the sill, but we liked the way the FANUC ran. It was just a lot stronger and stuff. So we got another FANUC 3-axis this time. So we have a 5-axis Robodrill and a 3-axis Robodrill.
Okay. I think when we talked to you last, and AJ, maybe you can chime in here, you didn't have the Robodrill running yet. You had purchased it and you had some problems.
Oh yeah.
And you hadn't actually used.
Dang, that's probably like forever ago.
Used it.
Yeah, so there was a whole bunch of issues. There was like, for anyone that knows the Robodrills, there is a riser that you need to put in the column. So it's like a C-frame column, and right before like the upside down L part of the C starts, there's like a 4-inch riser that needs to go in. If you have a pseudocoma or like any kind of 4 or 5-axis table on the machine. And when we bought the machine, that wasn't there. It was an oversight on pretty much everyone's part. So that had to get put in the field, and it just took a lot longer than expected. So it was down for, I'm not going to say down because it was never up. It was waiting to be put in to use for a couple months. Yeah, exactly, right there. Perfect. Oh, nifty. You got yourself a little computer screen too. I like it.
Yeah, I can screen share now.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, that was pretty much how that was the whole issue there. But once it finally happened, like we've been up and running with it, and 5-axis is 100% the way to go. Like obviously, if you have like some random product you're doing or whatever, and it's only like 2 ops, then yeah, okay, a 3-axis definitely makes sense. But for job shop work, a 5-axis is definitely the way to go. It's just been like a huge productivity or throughput increase, which has been awesome.
Now,
so, question that you have to ask everybody when they get a 5-axis: are you actually doing true 5-axis moves, or is it all just positional?
No, so it's technically 3+2. The way FANUC does stuff, I think it's very similar to Haas, where it's like, here's our great price, but if you really want everything, it's like 5 more price options. So FANUC is the same way. Full simultaneous is an extra 15,000, I think.
Wow. Oh, really? Interesting.
Or somewhere around there. And there's kind of like three versions. So there's center of rotation, where everything is programmed off center of rotation. That's kind of awful because you need to have your vise and your stock and everything like modeled perfectly, which is super annoying. So the next step is tilted work plane, where you can your 0 point can be off your stock, and then when you tilt the table, like the machine will know where the stock is. It doesn't need the center of rotation to be programmed off of. And then like the top tier of 5-axis is tool center point control, so like the tool can move simultaneously with the part. That's 15,000. I didn't really think it was worth it because two reasons. I'm new to 5-axis, so a crash was definitely imminent if that happened, even though crashes have already happened, so I guess they were imminent anyway. And also, we use Fusion for ITAR, which means like you just open
Mm.
the part in Fusion, but you can't save it, or also go to the cloud, and that's a
Interesting.
no-no. So
Is that like
the
a
only
setting in Fusion
no, you
or
just so if you go into Fusion and like the top left corner, like instead of uploading a part, you can just open a part, and
Hmm.
it doesn't save it at all. So there's nothing
Interesting.
going to the cloud. So it's totally ITAR like okay, or ITAR compliant, or whatever the words
Does
are. But the only problem is like if I wanted to upload a vise or any like model or component into a part, you have to have the part saved. So I can't upload my table, my machine, a vise or anything into the model. Um, Although I may be able to do that through like the machine part of the cam. I'm not really sure though. I haven't really explored it. So if I wanted to do like simultaneous, I'm definitely simulating that, and I want like my table and my fixture and all that stuff in there. But since I can't do that with Fusion currently, then it's not worth having simultaneous because I'm not doing that without simulation. So
so when you're working on a customer part, do you just never save your file?
if it's ITAR, so what you do
Well,
is
if
like,
it's ITAR.
yeah, so you can open the part, not save it at all. And then if you want to be done with the part, you can export it as a F3D without
Okay,
ever
okay.
needing to save it. So I have a folder, and then like I just have my F3D, and then when I go to I just hit export, and then it says like, do you want to replace it? So then I always just have the newest copy in my like
you,
downloads
you do know
folder.
you
So
can
it's
go
like,
into an offline version of Fusion, right?
I don't think you can save
You
stuff
might not be
though.
able to save it, but I think you can.
You can save stuff, but as soon as you go to the online version, it'll
Yeah.
upload it,
Yeah, so
Well,
which
I
is
can't. I definitely not gonna
but
risk it.
could you save it and then delete everything out before you go online? Like if you wanted to save something to where you can kind of use it Fusion like normally, and then before you go online, you just
Hmm.
export that out and then delete it off Fusion and then go online. With the only advantage being
I
maybe a little bit easier to if you're working on multiple parts.
I haven't tried it. It might work. Um, I would probably. Hmm. I wonder if you can open something. I don't know
I
how that
wouldn't
works.
risk
Can you
it.
save something in
I
offline
don't
mode?
know. I
Yes, you can. You
Okay.
100% can. But
Okay.
as soon as you go online, and Fusion gets awfully picky about being offline, it'll
Yeah.
upload it.
Because every time it like I lose Wi-Fi, it like puts a big red alarm up, and it's like you're offline mode or whatever. I can look into that. I guess I know what I do works, so I guess I just haven't changed it. But if I can upload a Vice or something, then I might look into that. Um, but I had a Fusion 360 rep call me the other day because like I used the simulation thing or a simulation extension for free for 14 days.
Hmm.
So she called me. She's like, "Oh, are you interested in this?" I was like, "No, I literally was just curious about it." But I was like, "While I have you on the phone, like ITAR and Fusion, when's it happening?"
Yeah,
And she was like, "This is by far our most popular request." She was like, "I can't give you any dates or times, but she's like, it's in the works." And I was like, "That's all I need to hear." Okay.
That's good.
So yeah, that'll be very nice. I'll happily like if they make it another extension, I'll happily pay like another 1,000 or whatever it would be per year. Definitely worth it.
yeah. It's too bad the other options are like basically you could go to HSM Works, but then you got to buy a license of Inventor, and HSM Works, from what I understand, is way behind Fusion at this point.
Yeah, it's not anywhere close to kept up with Fusion. Yeah, from what I've heard also. I've never used it.
And then yeah, your other options are like all the traditional, $20,000 of what's
Someone
that
was like,
software,
why don't you
NX
just
or
get
whatever.
Mastercam? And I was like, I refuse to spend that much on
Yeah,
something. Also, it's just something totally new to learn, and I don't feel like doing that right now. There's lots of other things to learn.
yeah. What is Mastercam price wise? I've always thought of them as like 10K, but I don't think that comes from any source
I
of
want to
truth.
say 5 axis is like 30K, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought they were
Yeah.
cheaper than that.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I could be wrong. I think there's like different tiers and different like access to different things and stuff. Um, so I that number could be wrong, but I think it's somewhere around there. I don't know.
Yeah, if I got forced to leave Fusion, I would probably try to go to NX, but yeah, it'd be a
Mm.
giant pain and it's super
Maybe a
expensive.
spree because that does like mill turn and like Swiss lathe stuff well.
That's
If you
true.
ever got into that stuff, I don't know.
I almost did. I'm still
Oh, really?
considering it.
Is that because Tormach did like a deal with them, right?
No, it's because a Sugami B16 or whatever it is on Facebook Marketplace for an entirely too reasonable price.
Oh my. Lathes always pop up for literally like close to nothing.
I wish that was true. I've been looking at lathes for a long
Really?
time, and you can find like a 2015 Haas CL1 for $35,000. But
Okay, maybe I'm talking about like the 80s
Yeah,
ones though, like the ones where it's just
well,
like a
yeah,
literal brick of cast iron and the screen is like black with like the green matrix letters or
yeah, but
whatever.
anything of that age is cheap.
my
Lathes or mills.
yeah my
Yeah, that's true. It's
one
crazy
of my
how many people still buy them though. Like you go on the
yeah
Facebook groups and people are like just picked up this Fadal that I love and I'm like, "Oh, it's like 50 years old."
the Fadals are a different beast because those are designed to be super repairable and they have a good
Maybe yeah,
market.
that's true then.
Um, but the old other machines, yeah, they're scary. It's tempting sometimes, but like one of my rules was no project machines. I am not going to buy a project machine.
Yeah, you're gonna have to dump so much time into it.
Yep. Even if it saves me, $20,000, the opportunity cost of spending my time on it will be much, much more.
That's one thing I didn't really think of when we were like starting the business. It's like, oh, I could save money by doing things myself. And then you get busy and you're like, oh, I'm actually losing money now by
Yeah.
doing it myself. Because like I'm not physically like I'm not actually losing money, but I'm not making money, which is losing money, which is kind of unfortunate. So you end up just having to pay people, but it makes you more money in the end, so it kind of works out.
Yep. Are you guys paying anybody to do something? Do you have an employee yet?
We do have an employee, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
So
last time we talked, you were like just selling your sill. Um,
yeah.
do a shop update for us.
So we sold the sill to Black Fox in
Oh,
Ohio, and
He loves it.
then we actually scheduled it kind of well. So the rigger came with the new Fanic and brought the sill out with it. So like the same day we had a machinist place. Then it took like a week and a half to get things up and running. And then, since nothing can ever be smooth, there was about 2 weeks of downtime with the new Robo because of like
Oh no.
parameter issues or whatever. So the guy comes, sets everything up, and he's like, "Okay, you're all set. Make sure everything works." So we like did some tool changes, some basic stuff, and then like an hour after he leaves on like a Friday afternoon, there's no way he's coming back. We like run into a bunch of issues that kept us from doing things. It was like it's always the parameters because there's like 50 million of them on the Fanic, and they're like, "Oops, I missed one" or whatever. It happens both times. So he had to come back and then it was like more parameter issues. Oh no, he's on vacation now. So it took like a week or whatever, but it ended up being fine. Um, and then we really didn't want to hire an employee, but we knew it was inevitable. Not that we didn't want to hire a person, but more like we wanted to prepare the company as much as possible for them to be worth as much as possible. in the business. Um, but then we were kind of just like, okay, maybe it'd be better if we just got someone who's not super expensive, and that way we'll kind of like know what we're missing, because we can only prepare so much for something that we know nothing about. So most of our preparing was like useless, or like we were just forgetting really big things. So we hired a guy we knew. He's like my age and he has nothing to do with machining, or he didn't know anything about machining. But he had like a really good work ethic. So we're like, yeah, sure. Like, let's make this happen. So then we hired him, and then we've just been teaching him on the 3 axis for the past couple months since May, and he's actually picking it up really fast, which is nice. And then since then, we've just been looking for customers, improving things around the shop, implementing ProShop, and that's pretty much it.
ProShop.
Keeping busy. We had our biggest couple months these last few months, so it's been like really hectic, a little too hectic actually.
Do you want to go into ProShop at all?
Mostly Sean is doing like the implementing, so I handle a lot more of like the machining end of the business, and he does like the quoting and the ProShop implementation and stuff like that. So, but we've been doing a video series with Paul. Um, I never know how to say his last name. It's either like Van Meter, I guess, on LinkedIn. And he's the owner of ProShop. So we've been doing a video
Okay.
series with him about like our progress of the implementation and stuff. And it's going pretty well. It's insane how powerful ProShop is, and how automated everything is. It's automated to like a level where you can't just learn it on your own. So every couple days, twice a week, Sean is in a meeting with a ProShop like implementer, and we're going to be doing that for the next few months, kind of like making ProShop like the heart of our business. So, um, but our progress with that so far is we got our first quotes out with it this week, and it just looks like so much more professional.
Hmm.
I may have sent quotes to either of you guys with our old system, and it was just like an Excel spreadsheet with like fancy laid out boxes, and like it worked and stuff. But we're trying to target like a very specific customer niche now, and it needs to like look professional. So it
Yeah.
actually looks like a legit quote now, which is awesome. But behind just like the look of the quote, the quoting software is really nice to use. The schedule is what I'm most excited for though,
Mm.
because right now it's like, okay, we have a bunch of stuff due the 21st. Six of them need anodizing, two of them need this plating, whatever. And it's just like a mad rush to get everything done. We usually take too much work, just because like we're like, ooh, money, so we take it. But then it's like, oh, we don't have the time to do this. Um, and then it's like, oh, this job's due the 21st, but it needs anodizing. That takes a week, and it's really hard to schedule that. And we could have built out our own scheduling system, but ProShop has it all, like everything in one place. So we're definitely using that option. We haven't gotten to the scheduling part of ProShop yet, but once we do, I'll be very excited to fill that out and kind of have like a legit schedule. Because also right now, I just go home and come in whatever time I want, which is terrible. Um, because I really don't have a problem working a lot. I guess maybe just because I'm like young and I love what I do. But I'm trying to, even if it means like losing out on some money, I'm trying to run the business as I would be in like 30 years on like an actual like day-to-day schedule where I come in at a time and I leave at a time, and so does everyone else in the company. So we're trying to start that now before like bad habits keep
Yep.
continuing because they've already formed. Um, so once that schedule is up, we're gonna have like, okay, 8 to whatever, or I don't know, whatever time it is, and like fill in that schedule. And yeah, there's gonna be late nights here or there. Something's always gonna go wrong, but we're gonna try to stick to that. We're gonna fill it in. Hopefully, not miss any like job dates. Um, because Xometry, obviously the deadlines are important, but it's a very known thing that the Xometry deadlines are blown past by a lot of people. And for like a solid, almost our whole Xometry like experience, we hit every single deadline. And then when we started getting busy and like taking too much work, we would like miss the deadlines, or something was late at anodizing or whatever. So I want to get back on track of like being 100% on time for all the work. So the schedule will definitely help us with that, and I'm excited for that.
What was the biggest thing that pushed you into ProShop? Was it scheduling, or was it organization, or ordering stuff, or what was it?
Scheduling for me, My brother wanted the quoting because he does most of that and he hated our current system. I also wanted the inventory. So we recently kind of like brainstormed and we're like, okay, we need a niche. We can't just be an everything shop, which we've kind of always had a niche of like small parts. But now it's like, okay, we do small parts and our niche is going to be like super fast lead times. So they're not currently, I'd say they're faster than normal, usually like 1 to 2 weeks. But we want to get that down as much as like we possibly can. So the scheduling aspect of ProShop is going to help that a lot, and so is the inventory aspect of ProShop, because I know everything about lean is like no inventory, no inventory, but for what we do, it's actually very important for for quick lead times. It helps our margins and it helps our lead times. So we just bought some big shelving systems from Uline yesterday, and we're going to start stocking a whole bunch of different helical sizes, because that's a big thing that we're always ordering and like having to wait a day for. So if we have like a 3 day lead time and having the helicals on hand, that'll literally save our lead time by like a third.
Yeah.
Um, so keeping helicals on hand, and then the material tracking in ProShop is really good too. So we're going to, after we have the helical thing figured out, then we're going to move on to our material and kind of start standardizing sizes and keeping more on hand. Because material is also a big one that we're also waiting all the time on, and pretty much everything we order is next day air, which is usually like somewhere around $100. Um, which, if I'm doing a normal customer job, you quote that into the job. But if I'm doing a Xometry job, that's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Um, so if I'm getting $3,000 for a Xometry job, regardless, if I have that material on hand, save $100. What is that? 3%? I don't know, something. So saving a lot more on hand is going to be useful. And we also have the shop space. So it's like, why would we not save stuff on hand? So ProShop mainly was to kind of take our business to like a more professional level and a more organized level, and a level where like someone can run it that's not Sean or I, because everything is in our heads. And it works like that, but it only works like that when it's like us. And the goal is to grow the business and set it up where it's like a sellable business. Not that or the plan is to sell the business, but I don't know why we would grow it to not be sellable. So that's kind of why we got ProShop. I don't know. That may have not made any sense.
It
Nope,
does.
that makes sense. And about lean, one of the things, like one of the thought experiments, or one of the things I like to think about is where do some of these like known established systems start to fall apart? Because lean does not work in every application. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, what makes it not work in that application? And I think one of the underlying assumptions of lean is that like the amount of cash you have invested in your business and the cash flow is the most important possible thing. But if your business is all about speed, that's not true. Speed is your most important thing. And
Yeah.
so like some of the principles of lean start to fall apart a little bit. Not all of them.
It
Like
I
shortening
think,
setup times and the continuous improvement still apply, but
yeah,
and
definitely.
I had a meeting with a lean expert, and he's been in the industry for many years. He's retired now. I sat in on one of his meetings, and one of the things that he said was inventory minimization is the goal, but that doesn't mean no inventory. It just means you have to find the minimum amount of inventory that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good way of wording it.
So,
I feel like a lot of lean like gurus attached to lean started spitting out a bunch of Japanese terms and kind of was like lean, 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 like everything must be lean. And I think it turned a lot of people off. Um,
mm-hmm.
so I read Toyota Way, and it just felt like way too strict and like way too like mathematical, like flow charts and all this like numbers and a bunch of Japanese terms. And then I read Paul Akers' 2 second lean, and I was like, this just makes so much more sense. It's like lean is literally, it could just be boiled down to like common sense. Like at the end of the day, like flowcharts might help. They probably do, but it's so much easier if you just boil it down to like fix what bugs you and keep in mind like what waste looks like and like be disciplined about getting rid of it where you can. Like it literally boils down to so much simpler. I don't even like using the word lean because I feel like it's an instant turnoff for anyone that's been in this situation. Like I used to work with some guys and they'd be like, "Oh, we hate lean because they tried to implement it at my last company and it failed miserably." And it's like that's probably totally true and understandable because there was probably like some like Kaizen buckets everywhere and like Kaizen foam everywhere, and it's like it doesn't work if you just do exactly what the rule book says. So I kind of just prefer like teaching like what's the word, like common sense. I do like the eight wastes though. The eight wastes are great because that's like a really, if you have those in your head, then you can kind of just identify what waste looks like, and it's like fix what bugs you, try to eliminate the waste, and just like working on making everything faster, easier, cheaper, better quality. I don't know. I like to keep it more basic. And I also, this is like a rant, but I despise when people use the Japanese terms just because they're like a cool Japanese term. Like I was talking to someone and they were using like Muda and like Pokiyoki, and like that's what they are. Like if you're doing that thing, yeah, that's what the term
Yeah.
is, but stop using the term just because it's like a Japanese term. It's like it's waste. We're in America. Like I don't know. That's just my little rant. I think it's overused. But it works, so can't
Yeah.
complain that much.
Some of the terms are kind of helpful because they have more specific meanings sometimes.
That's true, yeah.
Like Kanban. At this point, like Kanban is just an English term.
Yeah,
It just
like you
happens to
type that
be
into Uline, like containers
Yeah.
come up. Like
yeah.
that's a term, yeah.
But I
That
I
does
will
make sense.
say the most effective change we made to make carabiners faster was cutting our batch size. Like it made a huge difference.
Is
Uh,
that because the large batch size was too unreliable?
yes, that's exactly
Okay.
why.
And you're talking about the current ones where you went from the big pallet to the smaller pallet, right?
Yep. And even
Okay.
right now, which ironically the mill's it's waiting on for me to put on screws. Okay, but I'm running a small pallet right now, which is only 4 carabiners, which is nice because I can just kind of fit it into smaller gaps more easily.
Would a traditional lean methodology tell you to run a bigger batch size?
No, not
No,
necessarily.
Okay.
lean
Oh
is
yeah,
all
because
about
it's
small
like one
batches.
piece flow or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But even then, it's not realistic in a mill to run one at a time because like then your tool changes quadruple, and then your like all your movements quadruple
It's
pretty much.
definitely a balancing thing. For me, I try to set it up where I get a finished part every cycle, at least one finished part or two, like
Okay.
whatever multiple I'm trying to fit. I try to design my fixtures and parts where if I have 3 ops, I have one in every stage of those ops. That way I can flip them and get that one piece flow. But if I can multiply it, I can do 2 in op 1, 2 in op 2, 2 in op 3, or whatever. I try to get some multiple
Okay.
of whatever makes sense to try to go between the different stages if I can.
That makes sense. Yeah. Interestingly, we've never gone into like multiple setups on the table. For us,
mm.
maybe because our volumes are never higher than 50. If I have a 2 op part, I'm running all the op ones, then I'm running all the op twos. For us, it just seems easier to like have one thing on the table, set it up really fast, run them, and then run the op two. And I could be losing out on time, but I'm not sure. I've tried to make everything one op though, so I
I
I,
think
I don't have to do that much.
I think part of it is that you are not making consistent parts over the long term. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
definitely
at
true.
for just the not for climbing carabiners, I'm at I don't know 15, 1600 of them or something at this point.
Okay, that makes a
So
lot more sense.
dedicated fixtures and stuff makes sense.
Yeah.
Um I mean, but yeah, I don't disagree with just having quick change fixtures. I broke up my carabiners into a 2 fixture system where I have 2 separate pallets, and I can either fit them both on the table at the same time, op one, op two, or I can put one on at a time.
Okay. That makes sense. And how are you liking the Saunders plate with your fixtures?
Going to the steel fixtures definitely made a big difference, mostly because my threads are just less prone
Mm,
to getting stripped out. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit slow to change fixtures. I would love something like a Pearson pallet system,
I'm
but
selling mine.
are you?
Yeah,
I need to buy a lathe, not a Pearson system. But
that's fair.
instead of pulling a knob, I use my little pneumatic wrench and I take out 4 screws and I lift it up and I swap the other one in. And it's a little bit annoying and it takes me maybe a minute and a half instead of 30 seconds, or well, instead of 5 seconds with a Pearson system.
That's not too bad.
But
Yeah, so realistically, I guess from like a responsible business approach, that's not the
Yeah.
right place to put a couple $1,000s. I think that's maybe something. Oh, that wasn't supposed to go off. I think that's maybe something Sean and I are either a little bad with, or I like to just call it like long-term thinking. Like if we want something, we don't get it right away, but like we always try to go for the best thing, especially if it's a long-lasting item. So for like the Lang, it was kind of a no-brainer because like, oh, this is gonna cut our setups down a ton. And so we just got like a bunch of that, or like the Rego fix holders or whatever. The flip side is that the spending is been pretty insane this year. Um, but it's manageable, so I guess I really can't like I'm not gonna stop, I guess. We were kind of nervous about our spending because it's like, is it gonna look like this forever? But then last month we cut all our investing spending, so no like tool holders or fixturing or anything, and it actually came out to like a really decent margin. So then we were like, oh cool, we're good. So then this month we're like more investing, and we're like, we'll keep doing this, it works. But then like once we're done, like I'm not going to need new vices forever and new tool holders. I'll always be buying them, but very less frequent than we are now. Um, so right now we're just investing a ton in that stuff, and then I think, well, I know it's paying off. And then in the long term, I think none of those payments will be there anymore, and then we should be golden. I don't know. That's the
It's
goal.
definite.
I mean, if you guys keep growing like you're growing, you're always going to have more and more of these things.
The goal is not to grow the business huge, though. Like when I say huge, I mean like not big, like couple people. That's all I really want. Um, but I mean, obviously, my plans literally change like one night and the next morning it's different already. Um, but I don't think like what, especially once machine payments are gone. Like I'm not always going to be getting new machines. Um, so once machine payments become less frequent, that's good also. And then once like I'm probably buying, I don't know, 10 tool holders a month right now. I'm not always going to need to do that. So things like that, I don't know, those payments should go away in the future. But I like the goal is to always have those. Like I'll crash an occasional tool holder and have to throw it out. But a Rego fixed tool holder is going to last 20,000 cycles, which is going to like hopefully outlive me. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So,
So I should have all my investments forever.
so why are you buying so much tool holding? Just out of curiosity.
When so for us we're doing a lot of like everything trying to get make it as fast as we can. If I need to set up a new job, it's a lot faster to set up the new job outside of the machine while the current job is running. And I can't do that with a limited number of tool holders. And also, we're trying to get away from our ER collets and shrink fit holders. So we're like buying a bunch of Rego fix holders, which the only reason we're buying them is because they're really nice. I think investment wise or like money wise, it's probably not a smart decision because I think a heat shrink holder is just as good in terms of run out, but the speed on the Rego is good, is the best we have. But also, like a minute tool change faster, or like putting in a tool a minute faster, that takes a long time for the ROI to make sense. Um, but the clearance is really good on them also, so that's helpful.
Well, there is something to be said for having enough tool holding where you can be setting stuff up while your machine is running. I think that'll pencil out a lot faster than say Rego versus heat shrink, because as long
Yeah,
as you can be setting
definitely.
stuff up outside the machine, and you're already invested in the Rego system, then I wouldn't mix Rego and heat shrink in the same. You chose it's like choosing DeWalt or Milwaukee. You've chose your system. You're going that direction. Just embrace it.
Yeah, there's no going
Just
back.
embrace it and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and no matter what machine you upgrade to, you can just keep the Rego fix stuff going along with you. If
Yeah,
you
that's
like,
the goal.
if you
So
went
we're
Shars tool holders and then you bought a Kern, you couldn't be like, I'm going to run the Shars tool holder on the Kern. Like that would just be dumb. But you can
I
run the
saw
Rego
someone
fixes
on
on anything.
Instagram running a drill chuck in their kern, and I was like, "This has got to be illegal. This is not
do they
okay."
make do they make drill chucks
But
and HSK spindles?
yeah. I mean, this guy had one. It somehow worked. I don't know how, But so we're looking at an HSK E40 machine next, and I would just start Rigo with that, and then all our collets would be able to work with it and stuff, which would be sweet.
The Robos are BT30, correct?
Yeah, so the 3-axis one is dual contact, and the 5-axis is uh normal BT30 because we were cheap when we bought that one.
Are the tool holders interchangeable?
Yeah, they're interchangeable. Um, a lot of people don't like to run them together though, because a chip can get under the flange when you're running a non-dual contact, but then
Mm.
if you switch to a dual contact mid-program and there's a chip under there, that's going to throw everything off. We're not really like slinging any chips like crazy, so we've never really had chips on the flange issue. Um, we may have, and we just didn't notice, but we haven't seen that issue yet. But everything we buy going forward is just dual contact because the 5-axis robo we don't see keeping forever. So
Why is
that
that?
Really?
one, it's like it's an okay 5-axis machine. I think for the money, it was the best machine we could have gotten. But the work we're kind of going down the path of, it's not the right machine.
Okay.
And that's not to say it's a bad machine. It's just not the right
What?
machine. So we're doing a lot of small parts with a lot of surfacing and not super tight tolerance, but decent tight tolerances. Um, and the Robo is fine. Our look ahead is can be upgraded, so the slowness is kind of because of the look ahead. So that's something that can be upgraded in the machine. But the biggest issue for us is, well, there's two huge issues with a trunnion on a 3-axis machine acting as a 5-axis. C-frame machines are not meant to be 5-axis machines, so the thermal growth on the 5-axis machine is awful. Um, I can stop machining for an hour and go back to the part, and if I'm like flipping it down facing one side, flipping the table facing the other, that thickness will be easily 2 thou out if I stop running the parts for
Whoa.
an hour, which is very frustrating because now I just have the spindle running at 15K all day, even when I'm not using the machine. Like if I break down the machine and then I go to a different job and it takes me an hour to program, like I have the spindle running the whole time because if I don't, then I need to spin it back up, let it warm up, get to its place. So the thermal growth is really bad on it. And there's probably things I can be doing better. Like our shop isn't super stable, but the thermal expansion is repeatable. So I know that it's the machine and not the shop because like the results from the thermal expansion are very repeatable any day, any temperature. So it is on the machine end. And then the other thing is the pseudochroma table is not very rigid.
Hmm.
Because it's like you got the it's like it tilts and it's just going along like one along the B axis or the C axis. I always get them messed up. I think it's the B axis. The way the B axis runs, like if I'm roughing a circular part, when I am yeah, there we go. When I'm collinear, no, when I'm perpendicular to the B axis of rotation, there's very little rigidity. Like the whole machine will kind of like vibrate and the cut gets really bad. So there's like weak spots on the trunnion, which is kind of awful because like if I'm doing a circular part, like my run out is going to be bad. Like it shouldn't be bad, but it is because the table has like weak spots in it. And it might be able to be like tightened up. I'm not positive. But I'm pretty sure everything's tight. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Um, so it's limited compared to like a true 5-axis machine. But I mean, it's been a workhorse.
What
So
would be?
So when you
Yeah.
get into Kern,
what'd you say?
so when you get in your Kern,
Oh, it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. It's not gonna be for I don't know. I mean, when's the next IMTS? Next year?
yes, 2024.
No, that's too soon. Then that's too soon. So we're looking at getting a Kitamura Med Center
Oh,
next
those are
year.
cool.
Do you
Um,
know what those run?
the only
What do those
what'd
run?
you
Do
say?
you know?
Like spindle
No, like
wise?
cost wise.
Cost wise.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of all over the place because like there's the quote and then there's like the actual
Yeah.
price I'm willing to pay and then it's like the price they're willing to give me. It's about
Okay.
280, but I'm not paying 280, or at least like I haven't made any like deals or anything, but I know I'm not going to pay 280 for it. Because I'm also interested in the Hermle C250.
Hmm.
Um, and they're right about the same price range. The Hermle's a bit more expensive, but it has a much bigger offering. Like it brings a lot more to the table. Um, so yeah, if we got either of those machines next year, which is the goal because we need like a dedicated 5-axis for the tighter tolerance work we're doing, then a Kern's definitely not happening next year. But the way that machine is set up, it's like the ideal machine for the work we do. It's just not the right machine right away because of how expensive it is. But like the tool changer pockets, like 200 pockets, ideal for low volume work because you could just load it up with a bunch of standardized tools. I would get the pallet system, ideal for low volume, high mix, 42,000 RPM, ideal. Like the best thermal comp out there besides the Yazdas, which is like a literal like 50,000 pound brick of
Yeah.
cast iron. So like I'm not even interested in that because I like the Kern way more and its size and stuff. So that's like an ideal machine for our business, but it's just it's way too expensive. That's going to be like 8 or 900, which is like not even in the thoughts right
Well,
now.
if you make a knife,
So
I hear they'll make you a deal.
Yeah. Or several.
yeah, but I'd have to like. I mean, how many years did he spend in his basement though? Like there was, and the other shop. Like it took a long time to get to that. Still impressive though, super
Yeah.
impressive. But yeah. So the current biggest like thing going through my head is just like Kitamura or Hermle. Because I want to stick to our niche of like small parts because I feel like it's important to be known for something, and I'm starting to see people like know us for the parts we do, or like tag us and be like, "Oh, Cerven Solution size part" or whatever. Um, and I like that because it's almost like self-advertising, and I also think it's important to like I can't invest everywhere, so I'd rather. And I'm an addicted investor. I call it investing, but it's just like a buying habit, I guess.
They call that
I
gambling.
can only invest in so much, so I'm gonna invest all my resources into doing one thing really good. Um, so I want that to be like small parts, quick lead time, like super fast lead time. And the Kitamura would be super good for small parts, but realistically, I feel like you always do a little more than what your niche actually is, and the Hermle would be a lot better overall machine. It would be a lot slower at making small parts, um, but like you can make a small part or a big part on a big machine, but you can only make a small part on a small machine. So they definitely have their trade-offs. The Kitamura would be a lot better at making small parts. The Hermle would just be a lot better at overall work. Um, I think the only issue is my lack of confidence in following a certain path. Um, and when I say that, it's like I lack the the confidence to go down a path and like kind of go all in and trust the process and trust that I'll find customers down that path. Whereas the Hermle is more of a safety net, and it's like, oh, it's okay, whatever you do, like the Hermle will be there to do all that work. Um, but I think the better route would probably be trust the process and go down a certain route. Um, because the customers I'm targeting, I think I can get a lot of work from them from the Kitamura. Um, but it's just more risky because it's more of a niche machine. So yeah.
I mean, our favorite YouTuber who stole our podcast name has one.
Yeah, he does like his machine. I've been talking to him a lot. I think I might be bugging him too much. I ask him so many questions about that machine. Um, the only problem, what's that guy's name? I don't even know his name. I just know him as what is it, Breaking Taps,
Breaking
right?
Taps.
Do you
I
know his
should
name?
know his name, but I'm blanking right now.
Okay, so we'll call him the guy with the Kitamura Med Center.
Yeah.
The only problem is he does like his own products work, his own products, or not even products, like YouTube projects. So he's not constrained to holding really tight tolerances and making like job shop environment parts. So he's a great guy to talk to about the machines, but the only problem is like he's not getting like job shop experience with it, which is
Yeah.
fine. Because there's another guy, Rad Rob, I think that's his name. He has one also, and he got like a fully decked out one. and he's running like tight tolerance, like defense work on it. Um, so I talked to both of them, and I also went up to see the Kitamura at Allendale, which is like uh, the Kitamura distributor in this area.
Hmm.
I went to check it out on Friday, and it was definitely pretty nice. So we'll see though.
Yeah, I say focus on your niche. That's always what I preach, though.
Yeah, I think I lack a lot of self-confidence, so I don't think I have like, well, the goal is to have the confidence to like go down that path, but maybe I'll just wing it, get the machine and force myself down that path. Maybe that's the best thing to do is force myself. Because I also think I know a lot of people say printing isn't going to replace machining. I kind of think that's wrong. I think a lot of parts are going to get replaced. And I think kind of how, and my history on machining is pretty bad, but I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, 40 years ago, like, what's the Rust Belt was like pretty much driven by cast iron. So it was like all cast iron, which is all casting, and then like a bunch of machine shops are just kind of like post processing those parts, tapping it, boring out holes or whatever. I feel like printing is going to do a lot of that, kind of like the next cast iron revolution, I guess. So printing is going to be like these generative design parts or whatever, even just like simple parts where it's like bore out these holes, tap these threads or whatever. Um, and I could be totally wrong, but I just think that machining people aren't taking printing seriously enough. But that's just my
I
opinion. But I think small parts are safe from that because I don't see people printing out a part this big, especially like if you've got plus or minus 1,000 5 locations, like you can't fixture up a part the size of your fingernail um, after printing it. It's always going to be easier to machine a really small part. So I think we're kind of safe from the 3D printing revolution. I don't know what to call it. Um, and that's kind of why. And I also just really like the small parts. They I don't know. They get my brain turning a lot more than like a large part or something.
Is it because of the complexity of the small parts?
Yeah, and I kind of just like working with like small tools, small end mills, checking tiny features. I don't know. It's just like a weird thing. I just like the little parts.
Probably a little bit less stressful because you don't have as much mass, or and your tooling's probably not as expensive for most of the small stuff for your general tooling.
It does depend. Like sometimes the really long through spindle drills are
Yeah,
really
those could be.
expensive. Um, Definitely like crashes aren't as scary or like chucking apart. Definitely not as scary. Um, I used to be a lot more scared of that stuff, and then I feel like you kind of just get used to it, and like you get more comfortable running it, and like even if something bad happens, your reaction time is better after a while, and it's like, oh well, like it happened. Like also, I've realized like with better machines, crashes aren't as scary. Like with a like not a budget machine, but with like a cheaper machine, a crash will like rattle the whole machine, or like if you chuck a part, like the whole machine feels it. With like a bigger part, it's almost like a sense of security. Like everything's a lot more rigid. So if you chuck apart, like the tool breaks, but nothing moves. Um, so I don't know. I'm not really too scared of like big parts. Um, but yeah, I just like the small stuff. I think it also helps to like what you're doing, especially if you're gonna go hard down that route. I might as well do something I love or pick something I love. I don't know.
That's good.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. How's your shop doing, Harrison?
Doing really well. So, I don't know if you heard the news or listened to any of our podcasts, but we're in the process of acquiring a new building.
Ooh, that's
And
exciting. What shop are you at right now? How many square feet is
so
that?
we're in a 40 by 40 garage space, but we're only occupying about half of it. Um, and it's kind of a
Okay.
scattered half. So there's other stuff kind of intermixed in there because it's my dad's wood shop, our machine shop, and my grandparents' garage. So it's kind of like
Nice.
kind of
Very
three
full.
different things in one, and it's
That's cool though. I mean,
yeah,
that's
it is
nice.
really nice. I mean, we have a very interesting family situation in the sense that like there's one driveway and it's my grandparents on my mom's side, my parents, my grandparents on my dad's side, and my cousin and my aunt and uncle, and we're all on this. They're all on the same plot of land, and so
That's
it
actually
is
pretty
really
cool, though.
cool. But
That's cool.
like we have so many people, so many family members that'll just walk into the shop while we're working, and so like moving out. As much as I love having them all come in, I do feel like sometimes they can be quite a distraction. But
Yeah, especially if you want to like be more professional
yeah,
in a sense. Like when sales guys come over or customers
yeah.
come over, it's
It's,
definitely a little more cringy, like when a family member
it's like
walks
my
in or
dad
whatever.
walks in and he's like, "Oh, I'm here to cut some wood for the chicken coop." And we're like, have like a customer that's standing there and it's like, "Oh, okay." So, but
Yeah,
but on the
yeah.
flip side, I get to have my grandparents and I get to spend a lot of time with them, and they're getting up there in years. So I'm gonna look back on this time fondly because I'm not gonna they're not gonna be around too much longer. I don't feel like, and being able to spend some time with them is
Yeah, that's
is
pretty
is
awesome
awesome.
then.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
but
And the point of owning a business is to live the life the way you want to
mhm.
live it, like not to be subordinate to it. And yeah,
Yeah, for
So
sure.
in that sense, it's
How
awesome.
many how many square feet are you
It's
moving
going to be a
into?
40 by 80, so it's literally 4 times the square footage
Quick math.
of what we're currently.
Is that
I believe
3,200?
so.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3,200.
no. Oh, that's actually not too bad. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. That's like definitely enough space for like a bunch of machines and
yeah.
stuff.
I think 6 machines is kind of the comfort level, and
Okay.
um, I say that with an asterisk. The 6 machines that I've kind of thought about, I'm thinking 2 to 3 lathes and 3 to 4 mills is probably going to be the comfort level, and it also depends on office space and if we do. So I'll go over my idea of my layout right now. So with a 40 by 80 building, I'm thinking the first 40 by 15 to 40 by 20, the front quarter or so will be office space. It'll be inspection. Um, it might be like a showroom, or a um, meeting room area, something like that. So those are the kind of 3 areas I'm thinking about up front. Above it, I would like to put like maybe an anodizing setup on the upstairs side of it to kind of do double duty, and because it's tall enough that I could do that. Then I'll have the middle section, which will be like a 40 by 40 or a 40 by 60, somewhere in that range for machines. And then I'd like to have the back section just for like dirty operations. So for Cerakote or for welding or grinding or any kind of post processing dirty stuff, I'd like to close that off from the shop in the back, like 40 by 10 area, with maybe an upstairs area for storage or something else up there.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid setup. That would be sweet.
So
That would actually be really
try to
cool.
make it as
Then you'll be able to do as like everything under one house kind of, which is
yeah,
really
because
nice.
we're kind of into a little bit of everything. And I always joke because I need to find a niche, but I keep expanding rather than contracting. Um, but
and I keep yelling at him for it.
but it's working.
What'd you say?
I said I keep yelling at him for it. I keep telling him to niche down, and he's doing the
But it,
opposite.
it keeps working. I keep finding more and more work as I grow,
That's the problem.
and
Yeah.
I keep telling myself if I can find one niche that would actually take over and lead the charge, I would run in that direction. But I haven't seen that direction pop up yet. The problem is I'm getting
I think
Mhm.
your problem is they could all do it, but you have to be intentional
exactly.
about it. Like it's not going to happen on its
Well,
own.
That's true.
yes and no.
Mm, you might want to find when are you moving? Because it would be super helpful to find a niche either right when you move in or like right around then before you start filling out that
Well,
building.
That's what I said.
well,
Yeah, because if you could build it into a niche, that would be like a money printer building.
maybe I don't know because I don't know. I am too much of a I want to do it all. That's part of my problem, my personality. I love like I want to have the y-axis lathe. I want to have like a big vertical mill, but I also want to have some small like Robodrills or like a Brother Speedio or some small 5-axis machines or like a Swiss machine. like I want to have all the different types of machines under one roof, and that's like the opposite of specializing. So
I think that's
Yes.
the machinist side of you, but the business side of you
but
is saying,
but
no,
here's
don't
the
do it.
problem is as I'm able to find work for all of them. Like I can find use cases for all of them, and um, I can grow all of them simultaneously, kind of.
The only thing I see with that is like, would the margins be as good? Because at the end of the day, like revenue is nice, but margins are king. Because like if you're spending 1 million, if you're making 1 million, but you're only making like 10 grand, then it's kind of useless. But if you're making 500,000, but you're pocketing 300,000 or whatever, random numbers, then that's a lot more valuable. And I feel like a niche provides better
Yeah,
margins.
except for the one issue that I'm running into is one of my customers likes having a one-stop shop for everything because they are producing all the
Dump that
Mm.
customer. You
the
can dump
customer's
that
the best customer
customer.
we have. We make the most money off of them.
What's that book from the guy who wrote Profit First? The Pumpkin Patch or the Pumpkin
Yeah.
Plan or
The
whatever?
pumpkin plan.
I haven't read it, but isn't that something, Sam? Like keep your one good customer or
Well, he
something
is my
like
one
that?
good customer, and he likes everything. He specializes in all the way from, 6 foot by 10 foot plates that are fully machined, all the way down to like
Oof.
really tiny stuff that is really intricate. And so,
Could you grow with that customer?
yeah,
Or do you see there being like a cap with them? Like you cap out a certain number per year?
there's definitely a cap at some point. I don't know where that point is, and then
But how many guns has
Hmm.
that customer had
that
Cerakoted?
customer does not do guns. This is not a gun customer.
Okay, so you can still get a little bit more
Yeah,
specific
the
while still
the gun
catering to
stuff
that
is not
customer.
something I'm actively pursuing. That's more of a word of mouth thing. That's something that I do just to get our name out, to reach more people, to find more opportunities, because it's
Hmm.
done a really, that's more like advertising or marketing than it is a business strategy, like to make money. And it's done really well in that sense. We have reached more people through the guns than probably anything else in our area, and so it's been an amazing marketing strategy, because it's helped me network more than anything else. So
See, I kind of did that with like cars. So in the beginning of the business, and I hate cars, so it was a terrible idea. Um, like like car guys are like car guys. Like they know everything about cars and they want to talk about cars. But I don't even like I barely know what a carburetor is or whatever. Um, so when we started the business, I tried to get any business I possibly could, and a lot of that ended up being car work because every car guy is like, "Oh, I want this billet thing for my car or whatever." So we kind of started doing work, and then we realized like individual people make terrible customers because they have a horrible sense of how much
yeah,
stuff costs, and like if they spent 2 grand on a gun, which is completely normal, like they only want to spend so much. Oh, no, that's not true because if they're spending that much, they might want to just spend a bunch on Cerakote too. But I feel like normal people tend to make pretty bad customers, but they do get the word out, which from what you're saying is pretty nice.
yeah,
Um,
because like
but yeah, I think you need a
we had a
niche.
delivery driver who showed up, and he was dropping off some material for us, and he saw that we did guns, and he was like drooling over them for like 15 to 30 minutes. And then when he got back to his shop, he told everyone in the shop, and was just, handing out cards and like telling them all about our stuff. Now, granted, it was gun stuff, but at the same time it was helping network with all the different people in the shop. And so and
Yeah,
so
for
it's
sure.
stuff like that that makes me go, I don't want to do it as my main source of revenue. Like that is, at one point I was looking at it at that as that, but I have given up on that. Like it would have to become my niche, and I would have to get a lot of it, and it's something that I don't want to pursue,
Yeah.
and I'm only keeping it active purely for the networking reasons right now. Um,
Okay. AJ, what do you think Harrison's niche should be?
ooh, that's a good question.
I think he just needs to be a really good job shop. Like,
That sounds pretty not niche
Yeah,
though.
I mean, I don't know enough about the parts he makes to be able to niche him down more.
The problem
But
with job shop work is like it's so
Broad.
like diverse. It's like insane. There's just too
Yeah.
much to do.
And my problem is I never wanted to be a job shop. Job shop was always a means to an end for me. At least it has been so far. I've always wanted to get into the product space, and the struggle has always been finding a product that I want to do. In the sense that I actually have a lot of different ideas. The problem is I don't have the money or equipment to fully R&D any of those ideas right now. Like they're all way too big. Is
Hmm.
the problem.
Darn, that's unfortunate. Yeah, definitely don't go down the job shop route if you don't want
Well,
to do it, because it's not like it's
I,
fun or
I
anything.
love it. That's the thing is I do love the job shop work and I am very good at it. But like I want to either move away or create a separate division. Like in my ultimate goal, like I want to be an entrepreneur in the truest sense, not a machinist. And so I look at my business as one component of a large company that I want to build someday. Um, that's my
Hmm.
mental image of it. It's not I'm building a job shop. It's like I'm building a branch of a business of a bigger company that I want to have someday. Like I want to have a job shop like Hermley, for example. I think it's Hermley. They have a job shop and they produce equipment. Like they do both. Or current,
that's
yeah,
Kern. The Hermley may
current.
actually do it too, for that matter.
Yeah,
But
Fifth Axis does the same thing. I get
And
what you're
so
saying.
like
And I think Saunders used to do the
yeah,
same
so I
thing.
mean, so like Saunders started out as a job shop and then moved over to the product space. So I see myself going down that path more than getting specialized into the job shop area. But I do love the job shop area for its challenges. Like that is something that I get great pleasure in taking on parts and figuring out how to make them and having them come out as good parts.
Yeah. I definitely think job shop work is the best way to
Yeah.
learn
That
like how to make good parts, how to make them fast.
exactly.
And also, when you're designing your own product, you'll know exactly what not to do and the best ways to make it as easily manufacturable as
One of
possible,
the things
which is very
one of the
important.
niches that I don't even know if it's a niche that I've thought about doing because it kind of encompasses what I'm doing is becoming a product manufacturer, kind of like what people do when they send their stuff over to China, where they want to have a full product made by a different company and just like making
Hmm.
stuff for other people, but encompassing everything else in on the back end. So I kind of have the best of both worlds. I have job shop work, but it's also product work for someone else. Like,
That kind of makes sense. Or even like realistically, no matter what you do, it's always going to be cheaper to make 50,000 of those in China. Like whether Americans like it or not, that's how it is for now and for the foreseeable future. So maybe what you can be good at is like someone trying to make their product, but they don't want to have the first five made in China because it's going to take 2 months. So maybe you would be good at like the low
yeah,
volume initial products that someone makes or whatever. If it's like needs anodizing and it needs like this little plexiglass window on it and it needs this little thing or whatever, because then you'd have a variety of like, if you did that kind of thing, then you would literally need like every machine available under your roof so that you can make it
yep.
all in house. I don't know, maybe you could do something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. Like I said, we're still ever evolving. We're still really early on, and I still don't know what we ultimately want to do.
yeah,
I
I
think
think the
since you're
term you're
so
looking
small still, that's totally fine. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think since you're small, it's fine.
We're,
But like as you
yeah, as you
grow,
grow, you need to get more defined. I do understand that. Or were you going to say?
I think the
yeah.
term you're looking for. Am I? No, okay, I'm not muted. I think the term you're looking for is contract
Yeah,
manufacturer. That's like basically a job
Mm,
shop on a
yeah,
larger scale. Uh, for example, in my
okay.
last job, we had a contract with Liebherr, like the European Caterpillar, basically, and like every we had contracts. It was like every month we're going to need this many parts, and we would make them that many parts.
Yeah, that was how my last job worked. I think we worked at pretty much like the same exact place.
Yeah.
yeah,
um. So like yeah, that thing that exists, and that is still very much alive and well in the U.S. It's just like it's not
yeah.
visible. It's not a sexy job to or a sexy
That's
company to
true, yeah.
have.
hmm
Yeah.
Um.
But
I think it definitely
So
depends on what the type of work is. I thought Harrison was talking about like products, like I don't know, like something you'd see in like Target or whatever,
Maybe,
which probably not many things there.
maybe, but
I mean,
I think
contract manufacturers still make
yeah,
those too.
that's true.
but
Yeah.
like, what would be my ideal? Well, I mean, like, we're kind of doing these.
If it was like a red dot site or something like that,
That's a
like
little too.
you could go contract manufacturer for something firearm related since you're already in that world a little
Yeah,
bit, or like something that's
Yeah, go to like
high
EOTech or
margin.
Aimpoint or something, or like Vortex and talk
yeah.
to them.
You know,
Although they probably have
yeah.
shops.
Well, there's a couple big gun manufacturers about an hour's drive away, and I've gone and toured some of their facilities, and if I could get in and make parts for them, I would. But I haven't been able to make that connection yet. Um,
Uh, I think it's really hard sometimes to get work from people that are already manufacturing on a mass scale because the price they need you to be at is usually super hard to hit because they're like, yeah, we invested 5 million in this. And you're like, oh, I got this $100,000 machine. Like I can't hit those
yeah,
prices to like make my my job rate. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how no, that actually wouldn't change anything.
but I
Yeah, it's hard giving. It's like I feel stupid giving advice because I'll be like, "Oh, just do this," but it's like you are the one working 100,000 hours a week on the business, and you know it in and out. And I know literally what I've heard for the past 10
yeah,
minutes, so it's like
Yeah.
anything I say really doesn't mean
yeah.
anything. It's just what I've heard for the past ten
Well,
minutes.
and for me, what I'm kind of waiting for to see if it pans out, because it could start to direct our business, is one of our biggest customers has been saying for the last 3 months that they have this new equipment that they're going to start releasing, and it's going to start being high volume. And I just got a quote for one part, 1,200 pieces. Um, and if they start producing these machines, I could start producing high volume repeat work for them. And so I'm working very hard to get that work because I could specialize in that direction if it gave me the right volume. And then and that's kind of what I've been. And the nice thing about this is it kind of lines up with my goals of having more machines, because they have such a broad range of parts that they want, and they literally outsource to probably 50 or 60 different types of shops, for that specialize in those niche areas. But the problem is that they're all across the U.S. and they're always looking for someone local to do their stuff, because they're constantly having to outsource stuff from, like, the other end of the world to get it to their shop, or the other end of the U.S. from one coastline to the next. They have companies all over that do work for them, and so, like, the more that I can do in house to help them, the happier they are. And they're
That's
already
awesome.
talking about dropping one of their machine shop vendors in favor of us. Um, and so I'm moving in the right direction with them.
That's really cool. Especially if they're like a really big company. Because, like, I was just talking to my uncle about this because he sells Mazaks in Ohio. And we were telling him about um, how we're mostly Xometry. And we're like, yeah, it's really bad that we have all our eggs in one basket. And he's like, people say it's bad, but it's not maybe as bad as you think, because he's like, if they're a really stable company and you're making really good money with them, then he's like, then that's really not a horrible thing, which makes sense. I still think it's not a good idea to have all your eggs in one basket. But like if you pushed with this company really hard and like did a ton of work with them and they're like a really big, stable, solid company, that would be like huge and awesome for
So
you. And what's nice is like if you quote that higher volume work, um, like even if you don't quote it super high, you could spend the next 5 years perfecting that process and have the cycle time 10% of what you
yeah,
started at and still be charging the same price or like maybe lower it a little, but
yeah.
um, that would be
Well,
really
and what's
nice.
nice is that I've developed a nice enough relationship with them so far that I'll quote stuff and then they'll have it quoted by a bunch of other people, and I'll be like, "Hey, where did I land?" and they'll give me feedback and give me,
Hmm.
if I'm way high or way low, they'll give me a chance to requote it to and
That's really
so
nice.
if I can continue to build, and that's the advantage, that's my home field advantage of being able to go and sit down in a room with them and go over the problem over all these shops that are outside of their reach, that they're having to do through email or through phone. Like they can put,
Yeah,
if
that's
I can
awesome.
be that person that can talk to them directly and I can go over and answer questions or be there to look at stuff with them, then I have a home field advantage that I'm really trying to press.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense.
Hey
Being
James, is
local
your
is
cousin
convenient.
or your uncle by chance named Kevin?
No.
Okay.
That's
I
funny.
just got a quote on a Mazak lathe, mostly because I wanted to know the price. Like I wasn't considering it that seriously, but
Are you
and I'm
near
kind of near
Ohio?
Ohio. I'm near Ohio. I'm not in Ohio, but
I
I'm
I
near
couldn't
Ohio.
I don't know where any of the states are located in the Midwest. They're just in the Midwest. They could be anywhere.
Yeah, where I that's kind of why I was wondering if it might be. But yeah, I'm like next door to Ohio.
Okay,
And
well.
the the other
Um are you nervous about contracts at all? Like I would be super scared to get in a big contract and then be like, "Oh boy, I completely misquoted this." And then you're just like stuck in this big scary contract with a I don't know, ton of overhead
for
maybe.
me, um,
Yeah.
yes, that scares me, but what I've always found is it takes a lot longer to do the first one, but then it can also be a lot quicker than what I initially thought it was once I've optimized for it.
Mm,
And
that
and
makes
so
sense.
I'm less I'm less scared if I know it's going to be repeat work because I know there's ways I can get the time down if I need to.
Okay, that makes sense. You should also like if you get the contract, you should just go to someone like a consultor who's like makes contract parts faster for a living and just have them take a look at it, spend I don't know, 10 grand or whatever. And then for the next 5 years this thing is crazy optimized. What Chris Zappatini, that's like all he does. He just goes things and he's like, yeah, this process is now 50% faster and cheaper and better quality. And then it's like, sweet. So like you can do something like that too, where you quote and then you go to like someone and they just completely revamp your process and make it way
Yeah.
better. And even like automate it. Make some parts while you're out playing golf. Like that's nice.
That's ultimately where I want to get to. I want to find customers that do have those high volume parts that I can justify that kind of stuff. And like you said, you can justify it with the job shop quick stuff if you're trying to palletize your workload. Kind of like the Kern is the ideal machine for on some level because it can switch over jobs so fast. But on the same level, you can also use that Kern loaded up with pallets and go play golf, and it makes the same part over and over again. So
Or even not like a kern. Like if it's a simple part, you can get a
yeah.
Speedio and an Aroa
Oh,
pallet like Dennis is doing, and it's like you make just as much money maybe,
more.
or it really all just depends like who your
Yeah.
customers are. Yeah, if you have like nine Speedios, or I don't even know what he has, but it's insane.
No, my
Um, so you can get cheap machines and do the same thing
I'm
depending on
gonna
what it
have an
is.
Aroa pallet system hooked up to some machine at some point. Like that is in my future. I just don't know at what point it's gonna happen. Like it's
I think I think automation is definitely necessary. Um, Going down the road as everything just gets tighter
yeah.
and tighter. Um, it would definitely be nice to have. And like growing the company around automation and not employees is still more of a modern thought, but I think it's very important
Yeah.
to do.
And see, like I'm in an interesting area of the United States in the sense that there's very low technology, but a lot of manufacturing work. Most of the shops around me are not super advanced. Like I was talking to one of my customers today, and I was asking him, I was like, just out of curiosity, how many shops around here have a 5-axis machine? And he's like, I've don't think there is one in Northwest Arkansas, a shop that I know of that I can send parts to. He says I always have to go out of state if I have anything 5-axis. So like,
Hmm. That's definitely nice to get into like higher, nicer technology and just blow all the old guys
yeah,
out of the
so
water.
like I feel like I'm climbing a hill right now, but once I get up to a point where I can start gaining a little bit more momentum, like I feel like I can dominate this area pretty easily. Like I feel like I just need I need to cross a certain threshold before I can do it.
That makes sense. Are you scared that you're location locking your business too much, or you really like where you are and
I really
stuff?
like where I'm at. I mean, I have an insane amount of family here. Like to put things in
Okay.
perspective, as a kid, we had a family bus. We'd load up with 20 people and travel the US. So like we're
That's
really
amazing.
close. So there's
Okay.
probably 40 or 50 of us that are all related that live in the area, and
That's
and
awesome.
we
Wow.
do get-togethers about once a month or so. We'll have like all of us go do like a lunch or a dinner or something, and like some of my fondest memories are traveling the U.S. in a bus with 10 kids and a bunch of aunts and uncles and grandparents. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it doesn't sound like location locking is an issue then.
Yeah. Can
Not for
I go kind of wrap back half of a topic? I have a proposal that I want to bring up that I want input on.
Oh yes, we're all ears.
I am considering banning aluminum from my shop,
That's
except
actually funny
maybe in
because there's a couple
fixtures.
shops around us that refuse to touch aluminum.
So here's my theory. One, when you go to buy machines, a lot of the times the thing that pushes you to a more expensive machine is a machine with faster rapids and higher spindle speeds. And if you just
Purely for
say,
aluminum.
and it's purely for aluminum. And if you say no aluminum, you can get away with a much cheaper machine. Number
Yeah.
two, I basically have duplicates of all of my tooling. Like I have an aluminum version of the tool and I have a non-aluminum version of the tool. And if I just never touch aluminum, I need half as many tool holders. I need half as many tools. I need half as many ATC pockets.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's a pretty reasonable thing. I've thought about doing the same thing. I was thinking about like going down like, okay, we only do Teflon. And then like it instantly standardizes like 100 times everything. Um, I think at our scale right now it's not reasonable. But maybe in the future we do something like what you're saying where it's like you kind of lock yourself into one thing that's still pretty reasonable base. But like most of the products you do aren't even aluminum anyway, right?
yeah, the pen current plan is for the pen to be aluminum, but that could easily
Okay.
swap to stainless at some point in the future or titanium. The knife we're doing will probably always be titanium and steel. Um, the bigger issue is the product line that we are calling Better Desks. That name will probably change in the future. But those are fairly large chunks of metal as designed, like the sticky note holder, for example, which is probably the smallest of everything we've designed. Or here,
And
this
that
is a
would
better
not be
example.
aluminum in its final
This.
form?
So if this was steel, it would weigh a lot more, and shipping would cost a lot more.
Would it rust as steel?
Okay.
Like how would you count for that?
It would probably
Um,
have to be stainless.
I would either do stainless or coated steels or coated mild steel.
I feel like if a product was just straight up steel and it wasn't a knife, it would just be like, who made this cheap thing that's going to rust on
So
me?
So I disagree with that
Oh,
because
really?
aluminum feels super cheap because it's so light. And people like heavy things. Even in
Yeah, but
things like
I would
knives
just go with like
where
stainless steel though, not like 4140 or something.
yeah, I would use mild steel if we were coating it and some sort of
Oh, true.
because
stainless
Yeah.
if it
you
was
want
If
to
you're
powder
inferior.
coat
painting it,
stuff
yeah, that
anyways.
makes sense.
So
We powder coat just
yeah,
about everything, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then straight up steel.
yeah, because your steel
Yeah.
price
That's nice and cheap
will
and
be
easy then.
about equivalent to your aluminum, if not cheaper in some cases.
We did a deep dive into Harrison's business. What about you, AJ? How's your plans and trajectories looking?
Um
He's getting a Swiss.
up and down. I don't know. I'm right on the knife edge. Um where things could go in either direction at this point. Our
Okay.
online sales are really picking up. They're doing really well, but they seem to have plateaued at an average of $800 per week, which is a good start. But with that level of sales, we definitely need our Kickstarter tent poles to kind of keep us afloat um, between the Kickstarters. But if we get one more product that also, and that's with one product, by the way, or almost exclusively one product, Um, if we get another product on there that does basically exactly the same thing, then like we don't really need the Kickstarter tent poles. Like it would be
Hmm.
nice for sustainability and like growth, but we don't need them if we are doing $1,600 a week in online sales. Anything above that is just pure growth and profit. Um, so I'm trying to figure out how to get that second product selling, as soon as possible. The problem I'm running into is making this new batch of carabiners has just been like way tougher than I expected. Mostly because I made bad decisions off the bat and I've had to like spend time correcting those.
Hmm.
But I expected to have launched the pen Kickstarter by now, which means I expected to finish the carabiners mid June.
Okay, wow. And is most of that just because of its titanium? And like a literal, all of it's like slotting titanium, which does not
That
sound fun.
that is a lot of it. The big thing that has really been plaguing me is material movement. And I don't know if it's just like this batch of material or if it's like all titanium sheet, but back when I was running the large sheets, which were like 12 by 14, some of the material, when you removed a lot of it, was literally bending up at a 90-degree angle, going 12 inches straight up or corkscrewing. I had some pieces of material, took them off the fixture, and they went whoop, and it would literally do a 90-degree bend.
That's crazy. Could you not like bolt it down more?
Yeah, so basically all of my improvements have been making the sheet smaller and bolting it down more.
Okay.
Um, I just doubled my amount of bolts today, and also had some that were stripped out. Apparently, this was a lesson I learned. The screws that I was using for fixturing had worn out, and because the threads on them were worn, like there was less engagement with the threads in the fixture, and then that would also strip the fixture.
Oh, that's annoying. It
Uh,
sucks how small the screws are that you had to use. What is
yeah,
it, like 440?
yep, they're 440s because they had to
Ugh,
fit in an 1/8 inch hole.
yikes. That's not good.
Um,
That's unfortunate.
is it bad? I think a 440s is big because the other thing that I had issues with was some of the
For a fixture,
tapping.
yeah, that's not good.
Um, yeah, because all the other threads I'm doing are I-80s.
And
Uh,
you're like work holding with those?
no,
Okay,
but
I
I'm
was gonna
I'm
say, how's
tapping a
that
bunch
working?
of them.
Okay. And how's the tapping been?
Um, it's gotten to the point where that's pretty reliable. I occasionally break a tap, but it's never um like I'm not breaking 5 taps and 10 parts. It's like it ran a couple hundred parts and then it breaks, and it's like, oh, either something dumb happened or it got dull or
Okay, that makes
whatever.
sense. And you said you're looking at getting a lathe next, right?
Um, assuming the pens pass the we're going to sell a bunch of them test, then yes.
Okay.
So if the Kickstarter is just like mildly successful, then we won't. If the Kickstarter is wildly successful, then we will.
Okay, that makes sense. Because of where the business is at, the lathe would obviously put a lot of stress on things if it did mildly well and not super well, right?
Um, yeah, I mean, I could make it pay for itself. Like, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, and once you got it, it would also start making you money anyway. So it wouldn't just be like a dead weight that you're paying for or something.
Yeah. Um, but the lathe I'm looking at, the payments would be, I think, 1,000 or under 1,000 a month. And so it's basically the lathe needs to make $250 a week, which is, I don't know, a couple pens. Like, it's not a
Yeah,
big
that's
deal.
doable for sure. Even if maybe you went out and just found some like contract to put on it for now, just make some parts for someone or something. Like 250 bucks a week is definitely doable with a lathe.
And the one I'm looking at is pretty well geared for automation. So
Okay, you could put like a bar feeder on it or something.
it has kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't have a true bar feeder, it has a magazine. And you can fit like 2-foot bars in there, but also you can put parts for Op2. So it doesn't have a sub spindle, but it has a magazine feeder that will feed Op2
Weird.
parts.
What machine is this?
It's an Omniturn GT75.
We need a picture. We need a picture. You gotta pull up a
Oh, yeah, I
picture.
can do that.
We have technology.
Ooh, I should not have the customer information on my screen. It looks old. Um, they the website makes it look like it's ancient, but like it's been updated a couple times. And my biggest issue with it is, let's see, here's pricing. I'm trying to find like a picture.
Oh, it's brand new.
Um, I would buy a new machine. Yes, if
Okay.
I bought this machine, I would buy it new. With a C axis, they start at 4,300, or excuse me, 43,000. Um, I think I optioned it out so where it was about 50,000. But you don't even have to do that. Where is this the parts loader? Okay, so there is with like the pseudo bar feeder thing.
This is the wackiest looking lathe.
It is. It is. It is. Um,
But if it works, it works.
but it's just like a super solid
So does this show your
like
magazine?
chucker lathe. So yeah, I think that's what I'm hoping it'll
Let's
show
go-
here. So there's the like
Go full
rear
screen
parts
on that.
loader. There you go. It's dropping them in, pushing them forwards.
I really want to know how the reliability on that thing is.
From what I've heard, it's pretty good.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it
That
just
is so
drops
weird.
down and pushes it forwards, and then grabs it with the 5C collet.
What's the max turning diameter you could do on this thing?
I don't know, but it has a 5C collet, which those max out at like an inch and a 16th or something like that.
Okay, that's not
You
horrible.
can put a 3-jaw on it and get probably 6 inches. I would only ever run it with the 5C collets.
How do you think programming this thing's gonna be?
I mean, it's not a fancy sub spindle lathe. Like, yeah, you need macros and stuff for parting off and pushing the bar forwards and all that. But it doesn't like it's, I don't know, a normal number of axes.
It's actually pretty cool though that you can upload that you can load in a bunch of Op2 parts and it kind of just like puts them
Yeah.
in the spindle or whatever. Although it did look like it kind of dropped him out, so you'll have to come up with some parts catching system, or if you're tumbling or painting, it doesn't even matter.
So they have options for just like a basket, like the default option. There's just like a basket that kind of sits vaguely underneath the spindle.
Okay.
Or you can upgrade to a conveyor, or you can upgrade to a conveyor and a parts catcher.
Ooh. Are those add-onable once you buy it, like after you buy it?
I don't know. I've not actually talked to a person yet. But now I think about it, I sent them an email and I'm due for
That's
a
always like my
response.
biggest question. It's like, oh, okay, well, this option, can I get it after I purchase the machine so I can make some money and then make that payment less painful?
I suspect that I can.
Okay.
They
That
also
price
have an
isn't that
option.
bad though. For like a fully capable lathe of like doing the kind of parts you do, 50K or whatever, and then maybe some tooling, some rigging, bring it up to like 65 or something. That's really not bad.
So that's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment. And it has live tooling.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
It's just it's is
Keep you from having to put it in the mill.
when it says live tooling, is it just the gang setup where you just bolt on something that is live tooling?
yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. There's no y-axis, but there's a like I believe it's just kind of a little like thingy that comes off the side, so you can put one radial live tool on, and then however many axial you wanted.
That's pretty neat.
So that's where I'm leaning now. Though I don't know, maybe I still end up going with a mill. I was
Yeah.
looking at
I
these,
just
which are
trust
really
mills way
interesting.
more. And I know everyone says lathes, everyone that uses lathes says they're way easier, but I just have like a distrust for a lathe's ability to make money, which is completely
I,
unreasonable.
I've I've made the
But
most money off my lathe. Like
That is.
hour.
that's what everyone says, yeah. Wait, you're looking at DMG Mori's?
Have you seen like why do more of these machines not exist? And for the record, no, it doesn't fit in my shop. But this is a question I have. So this is
What
a
is that?
Mori. It's the M1. They run equivalent to VF2 pricing. So they start at about 60, and I'm sure you can option them out. Why are
That's
there
actually
not
not
more
that
of
bad.
these? Why are there not more of these?
So
From what I've heard, I don't think their support is amazing.
Fair.
Um, but if you're not running it like in a production environment where you're like cooking it all day, then you probably aren't going to have that many like support needs. Uh, but then again, if the machine is like you really need this thing to make you money, or else you're literally going out of business, and you probably want some pretty good support. Um,
Yeah.
there's so many things to think about. I was looking at a GF machine, and it was like
Mhm.
pretty ideal for what we do. And then I heard multiple people say the support in America just kind of like trash because it's a European, mainly European company. I was like, I'm just gonna chuck that option completely out the window. Then it's not even worth looking at it.
I have seen Maury service techs around here. I've passed them at a gas station or whatever.
Oh, that's funny.
So I don't know. The possibility of service exists. Now, this does go back to I can't fit one in my shop, but because my door is too low.
Oh, you can whack a bigger door in there.
I cannot. I
No?
have checked. No.
Oh, that's
Um,
terrible.
I can remove some trim and I can get to 84 inches if I remove everything that I can remove.
Dang, that
Um,
Maury's pretty tall then.
yeah. Well, I don't even think I can fit a single Haas. Like I don't think there's a single Haas that is a mill that is under 84
CL1
inches.
No, you can take
or the OM1.
you can take the columns. You can take like the what is that, the wire harness thing? And I think you could take some of like the spindle sheet metal off. Because our rigger was telling us that he fit a VF4 in some guy's um garage, but they actually had to cut a hole through the garage ceiling, and then
Mhm.
they built a coffee table in their living room, and inside the coffee table was the Z column of the
Yeah.
Haas. So maybe you might actually have to put a little dome in your shop with the Haas sticking through your roof.
So my
Um,
problem is once I'm in the shop, I'm fine. I don't remember what it measures, but it's the ceilings are fine. But getting in the door, it's the door that's the hard part.
Oh, you
that's annoying. You can
It
also
is
look at a
super
sill
annoying.
though. Like the sills are pretty nice. They're pretty solid machines.
Last I looked, and I need to confirm this because I was working off of different numbers at the time, but to my understanding, when I first looked, the X7 didn't fit. I may be able to revise that now because that was not including taking apart my wall in my door.
I
so
would be shocked if it didn't fit. What's a normal garage door height?
I don't have a normal garage door height. Oh, I see what you're saying. You want to compare?
Yeah, because it fit through my garage with plenty of room, and it fit through Black Fox's garage. 84
Um,
inches. Is that 8 feet? No, that's seven
yeah,
feet.
it was like 84 inches, and I think AJ's, if I remember right, your garage door was like
okay.
88 inches. Because I
If I take apart my garage door, I can get to 84 inches. Last time we were talking, I was probably not including taking apart my garage door. So I don't know. I guess it says an average one is 7 or 8 feet.
That would be super
So
limiting if you're stuck with being able to put like almost
it,
no medium-sized mill in
and
your
AJ, I
garage.
did send you a Haas that you could fit in your
um,
shop. I sent you a link.
was it
Is
a
it
mill
the
or
one
was
that
it the
Fidget
lathe?
Things
Go,
has?
go look at it real quick. Pull it up.
Where did you send
Instagram.
it to me?
What is it? The CM one or the C something?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yes, this one would fit.
oh, that is true. Yeah, that's good. I don't know. The control looks a little big. You might have
Yeah,
to.
control is a little large, at least for the machine.
It's. I think actually Bantam Tools just made something very similar to this, but with a FANUC control.
They did. Um, I
I
could
keep
fit
trying to
that.
get a. I never know. Is it Brie or Bright Pettis? Because Bantam
Brie,
is like
yeah,
30 minutes from our shop, and we met Bray at IMTS, and I was like, "Yo,
Brie.
you should come stop by our shop." And he was like, "You come stop by our shop." So we toured Bantam, and he still hasn't come to our shop. And I was like, "Come on, please tour my shop." It's a quick tour. I mean, you just come in, do a 360, and it's done.
I
Like, it doesn't
wonder
even
if he
take a
listens
while.
to this. Brie, do you listen to this?
Did Brie?
He didn't answer.
Mm, that'd
Okay,
be nice.
but he may have. He may listen to this. He probably doesn't, but he might. He follows us on Instagram.
Oh, nice. He's a cool
Um,
dude.
he is a cool dude. Anyway, so lathe and or mill. Oh! Have you seen that the Sill re-released their T series mills?
Did they really?
Yeah, they have a T5 and a T7.
That's
Um,
crazy, actually. I haven't been on their website in a while. Let me see.
I think it was like brand new, and that is a T5 is 10. Actually, I think if I remember right, the T7 was almost the same price.
The X5 is really nice looking. Like it looks just like the telephone booth Robodrill.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty solid looking little machine. Five. They have a
Keys,
5-axis mill.
drill tap. And I think they have
Dang.
a trunnion.
It's got a hide-and-hind control. I feel like Sill is growing pretty big, actually.
They are
I wonder if that kind of wrecks the magic of the company, though.
probably.
Because,
But yeah,
like,
here's the T5. It looks
oh
like a
wow,
Speedio.
yeah,
And it
they
starts at
definitely don't
about
come up with anything
47,000.
new. But I mean,
It's
who
not
really
bad.
does anymore?
I have a
Wow.
price sheet
You
too.
know the company, the Chinese phone company Xiaomi, I think it is, but it's spelled
Mm-hmm.
like Xiomi or whatever. Xiaomi, Xiaomi,
Yeah.
Xiaomi. Yeah, so it's Xiamo. So they were like a Chinese phone company, and they're like claim to fame. Or actually, no, I bet OnePlus is a better example. So you know the OnePlus phones, you had one, how they were like kind of like the flagship killer because they made like a really nice phone for a good price. And then they slowly started growing the company, and now their phone prices are pretty much exactly the same as everyone else. I feel like
Yep.
that's probably happening to Sill because as they grow the company, then the overhead grows, and then your support grows, and then everything keeps growing, and then everything just gets expensive, and then they'll soon have like
But
locations and offices, and I don't know.
but see, as you grow, everything's supposed to get more efficient, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
That
exactly
is
how
the
that works.
goal. I mean, that's definitely the goal.
Because
Um,
don't
but
we have the inverse
I think
problem?
what tends to happen is, I think if you get more efficient, what tends to happen is you just you just keep those extra profits instead of passing on a lower price to the customer, which is completely fair. Like if you did the hard work to make yourself more money, then go ahead and keep it. Like I wouldn't expect them to keep their prices at so reasonable forever. But AJ, are you
Yeah.
frozen?
Nope.
Are
You
you
should
still
be
here?
seeing the screen here. So this is the sale price sheet. The
Oh,
T7 4850,
yeah. See,
48,500.
their machines don't have those juicy prices anymore.
Well, the
Um
the X5 I was looking at, it was like started at like 26 or 29, something like that.
It's
yeah.
really still not that bad.
No, and so this is a 20k RPM spindle, 21 tool pockets.
I would easily argue these are probably better offerings than the Haas Mini Mill series or like a
Oh yeah.
TM0
Oh yeah.
even. Especially if you're not taking heavy cuts since these are BT30. Um, but they make some pretty solid looking machines.
Though I will say this is actually only a good machine for me really if I do aluminum. Otherwise, like
That's
a
true.
TMOP would probably be a better machine.
Yeah, that's true. Those are pretty cheap though, right? The TM
And they
series.
are cheap.
You got to be able to fit that through your garage.
Well, cheap doesn't mean it's short.
That is true, actually.
Yeah, so these start at 37, though. Then you gotta, you know, option it out, and Haas's, of
Spend a couple
course.
thousand in work holding and tool holders and everything
Yeah,
new
Well,
and
it's
service and
different
rigging.
tool holders.
What'd you say?
It's different tool holders, so that would
Yeah,
cost me some.
it's Cat 40, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The machine itself is like, it literally ends up being like half the cost of everything you sink into it, which is why it's
Well, when
like,
you buy Rigo Fix,
what? No, it's worth
yeah,
it.
it
No,
probably
but
is.
like
I'm not.
you buy work holding and you have to buy some tool holders anyway, and then like the rigging and it's like the coolant filters or whatever, the next gen coolant thing, and there's so much to
I
it.
think the
Although I could go a lot more budget, but I don't. No
I
regrets.
apparently don't get to build my machine live on the
I think
podcast.
the X5 would be
Oh, that's
actually a
annoying.
really good fit for you, AJ, because
It
it's
would
it's
be.
only a 12,000. Um, well, I think standard it's a 12,000 um, RPM spindle, and then it's a 16 tool change ATC. Pretty small, but that's still more tools than the Tormach, and it'd still be way faster.
The machining area is pretty small, but if you think, AJ, that you're better at machining like 5 parts at once compared to 30, then that might be a pretty solid
Yeah.
machine. I'm
Here,
surprised actually how
Well,
big Sill has gotten since I was last on their
part
website.
density.
They've got they got so much stuff now.
You could probably end up with like 3 of those X5 sills in a pretty small area.
I could fit a lot of them, and they probably don't use too much power.
Do you plan on keeping the business in your at your house, that space, or do you want to like move to a shop or whatever?
We will stay here until we have to hire somebody who's not Scott.
Okay.
Because we do not have a bathroom in the shop. The bathroom is still in the house.
Okay, yeah. Then you really need to only have employees that are practically like family then.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Especially when my children are so young and disgusting. Toddlers are disgusting.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But I mean, you can get a lot done with Scott for probably maybe, I don't know, a couple years or a year or something. A decent little while.
Yeah, I think it would be a long time before we hire somebody. Because I hired Scott very early, like earlier than I should have. And I absolutely do not regret that at all, because we were not growing at all until I hired Scott on. And he is basically already paid for himself with
that's awesome.
our online sales. So
yeah, it seemed like you kind of had to like do everything mediocre, but now he can do his things really well and you can do your things really well, which makes a lot more sense.
I still feel like I'm doing carabiners mediocre, but
they're way better than they were.
Hey, look,
to be fair,
they are the design and everything the design and the manufacturing quality has gotten a lot better. My rate of production has not gotten
That's
better.
True.
For the carabiners?
For the carabiners. Well, I mean, it's not where I wanted
Increase in quality, decrease in speed.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. How are your prices? Do you think you're too cheap or just about right?
As long as we're not making scrap, we're fine.
No, I mean the price you're asking people to pay.
Yes, as long as we are not making scrap, the price is right.
Okay.
When I was having process reliability issues, I was scrapping a lot of parts, and that made my costs, like my average cost per carabiner, not so good. But when I'm not scrapping parts, it's fine.
Okay, that makes sense. That's good then. But there is a lot of scrap, it seems like, which is unfortunate.
We're dealing with that. My scrap rate is going down and down and down.
Do you track that like in a percentage or like by piece, or you kind of just like chuck them out and call it a day?
I started working on a way to track that the other day, basically just a spreadsheet. But I got distracted, never got around to making it.
Honestly, it's probably not even that important. It's probably more of a waste of time than anything right now, because like your focus should just be like not making scrap. Like tracking the scrap is only confirming that you are scrapping, which you already know. So it'd be better to just spend that time not making scrap, or like instead of being like, oh, I made 50 bad ones. That's really only, I don't know, probably not useful until you actually have the process figured out.
Yeah, it becomes useful when it's not obvious that my scrap rate is decreasing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right now it's obvious, so.
Yeah, and since you're on such a small scale and you're literally doing every aspect of that end of the business, like you know exactly what's going on. That makes sense.
Anyway, I'm trying to get my sleep schedule fixed here. Last week, I had this great sleep schedule where I would wake up at 10, I would hang out until noon, and then I would work until 2 a.m. And I got a lot done for like 3 days, and then I did not get a lot done. So I need to go to bed.
That makes sense.
This is my way of saying we should do an outro.
Fair enough. Well, I guess that's my cue. So, for those of you that have been hanging out with us. We appreciate it. James, it's great to have you on the podcast. So I want to thank you for joining
Yeah,
us.
thank
It's
you.
always great to bring people on and hear how their journeys are going. And hopefully we can have you on again because I enjoy learning about what's going on in your world. Um,
Yeah, same with you guys. Thanks for having me
so,
on.
and for those that are listening, please like and share and tell all your friends. And this is probably going to become one of the top listened tos because we have a guest, so it's more interesting. So we appreciate that. And
I checked and he had fallen down to number 9 in the
oh,
episode
okay,
rankings.
Oh, that's
But I think
good.
it's
That's
just
good for
because it
you
was a long
guys.
Okay.
time ago. Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
anyways, regardless, I love having other people on, so appreciate you being here. And this is Harrison signing out with Precision Ingenuity. Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Design the Everything, and James from
From
Cerven
Cerven
Solutions.
Solutions. Yes.